Hello, my name is Helena Harnik, and I am the Executive Director of the From Testing to Targeted Treatments program. I'm very happy to be here with you today and to tell you about the FT3 program, what we are doing, the different kinds of tools and learnings that we have developed from the FT3 community of practice, and to give you some examples of how we have been making local impact from these global learnings. So FT3, the From Testing to Targeted Treatments program, has a shared goal to make precision medicine an accessible reality for all patients who could benefit from it. We take a multi-stakeholder co-creation approach, and you can see our growing and diverse membership on the right-hand side. And you can see that today we count a number of patient organizations, individual patients, industry members, healthcare professionals, from all around the world to collaborate on these kinds of solutions. The fact that we are co-led by the patient community is very important for the approach of FT3. We are increasing our global footprint, but we would love to have some more participation from countries in Latin America, which is why I'm very happy to give you this presentation today. And if you know any patient groups or healthcare providers who would love to be involved, we would be really happy with the introduction. So the FT3 members decided that they wanted to create the FT3 program because they really felt that there was a need for a new way to approach issues in precision medicine. And what the FT3 members believe is the belief of a multi-stakeholder collaborative approach with shared decision-making, shared co-creation with the patient community as being critically important. And we have outlined these beliefs in a publication that has just been published called How Can We Deliver on the Promise of Precision Medicine in Oncology and Beyond, a practical roadmap for action, and we would encourage you to have a look at that publication. So the mission and vision of FT3, the mission of FT3 is to be a global convener, accelerator, and connector. We are doing this by using our global community of practice to map existing activities and identifying common barriers to precision medicine across different countries. We know that precision medicine is very different from country to country, but when it comes to issues that are being faced, often we look and find that there are similar kinds of experiences that are being experienced across these different countries. We are also using this global community of practice to identify learnings and good practices and looking at how we can make them replicable locally. Where we identify a need, but good practices don't exist, there we will try to co-create new solutions. And what's important is also to build a positive momentum and building an active community of ambassadors to be able to do all this. In the short term, what we are looking to do is develop practical tools for champions of precision medicine, which could include patient advocates, but could also include champions from the healthcare community and beyond, and building a momentum for collective action. This is the strategy of FT3. We have 3 strategic goals and 9 strategic drivers. The 3 goals are the ones that you see here horizontally. The first goal is on access, and it's about access to precision medicine at the health system level. In other words, what is it that we can do to make it even a possibility for patients to be able to benefit from precision medicine? For example, trying to understand different stakeholder perceptions of precision medicine so that we're able to enable them to work more efficiently together. Another example is looking at how we can support the responsible collection and use of data and evidence. Another goal area is about how can we support access to precision medicine at the healthcare level. So once the patient is able to access in theory, you have coverage of precision medicine, of biomarker testing and treatments. What is it that we can do to make sure that the patient can actually access that and they can actually benefit from that? We often hear that there are issues in terms of patient level of awareness and being able to have productive discussions with the healthcare providers who may also show a little bit of uncomfort with the topic. We talk a lot about the issue of genomic confidence and what we can do to support that. Another aspect we are looking at is how we can support shared clinical shared decision-making. So how can we support the discussions between patients and healthcare professionals on what can sometimes be quite difficult discussions? And the third goal area is closely linked to our mission, which is to ensure a unified and accelerated precision medicine ecosystem. And here, what we are doing is building a global multi-stakeholder network and community, looking at scalable approaches to precision medicine, and so on. And this is all working towards a vision that precision medicine is available to all patients who could benefit from it, and ultimately to enable the best outcomes for patients. What I would like to do in this next chapter is to introduce you to some co-created tools and learnings from the FT3 community of practice. The work over the last 3 years have enabled us to develop a whole toolkit of different resources that are all adaptable to the local context. And we have educational resources, we have advocacy resources, we have developed visualizations of how we can visualize the patient experience, and we have also looked at what we call enablers of precision medicine that's supporting all of the above. What I'd like to do is to take a few examples from this and not only present the tool for you, but also to explain how we were able to get to this tool and to share with you some of the learnings that we gained along the way. So I'll start with the care level barriers. And what we did at the very beginning of the FT3 program was we used a fantastic forum called the Patient Engagement Open Forum. This was a virtual forum that happened in September 2020, when we brought together over 80 attendees from all different kinds of stakeholder backgrounds. So we had representatives from the patient community, from academia, and also from industry. And we all had a discussion together to understand what are the most important patient needs when it comes to precision medicine. And you can see the results on the screen above, and I would like to just explain to you what the summary was. So the most important needs that came from this group at this time was access to reliable information, learning about how they can participate in clinical trials and how to access clinical trials, understanding biomarker testing, and how to ensure that the treatment aligns with the best available evidence. Then the importance of data access, treatment support, and the availability of testing and optimization options were also underscored as patients shared their stories, advocating for broader access to biomarker testing and targeted therapies. And we found that this event also brought to the forefront the necessity of a comprehensive approach towards understanding patient needs in precision medicine. And this really formed the backbone of a whole series of work that followed after that. Another thing that we did in parallel to this patient engagement open forum session is a mapping. And what we wanted to do was to make sure that in developing potential resources to support these needs, that we weren't just recreating something that other people had created. So we started with a mapping to see what other resources already exist for patients and also healthcare professionals around the different kinds of needs that were identified. So over 160 resources were mapped to help patients and patient advocates navigate the field of precision medicine. These are available on Precision Medicine Synapse, a platform that we have developed to map all kinds of activities in precision medicine. I will present that to you a little bit later in the presentation today. Based on the insights that we had collected, both from the Patient Engagement Open Forum and the mapping that we did, and further iterative consultations that we did with the FT3 community, we identified the opportunity to develop 3 types of adaptable resources. So this is a Q&A builder, a biomarker testing resource, and a targeted therapy resource. And each of these are designed based on existing best practices. So the Q&A builder, for example, was built based on other Q&As that we had discovered from different countries across different types of disease conditions. And we brought together the best of the best to create a kind of model resource that could be and is designed to be adapted to different kinds of local contexts. So according to the local country or according to the specific disease that you might be looking to provide information on. And I also wanted to share that these resources have been tested in different kinds of formats. So for example, you can see that the Q&A builder resource was adapted to digestive cancers. You can see a quote from a colleague from Digestive Cancers Europe there. Another example was the biomarker testing resource, which was adapted to fit the needs of the ALK positive UK group in the UK, and of course adapted to lung cancer. We have also done adaptations in other cancer areas as well. So if you are interested in adapting these resources, please contact me or contact my colleague there. You can see the email on the screen, and we would be really happy to do that together with you. And each time we do these adaptations, we're also able to learn what might be missing or what adaptations might be required in the future. So I will continue with another example that I thought this group might find interesting, and this is around biomarker test reports. So the need for this came from the community, and we had many discussions with the wider FT3 community, and they kept on underlining the fact that the biomarker test report itself is somehow seen as a barrier. So often the healthcare professionals would share that it's very complex, it's difficult to, it's not always easy to understand, especially if you're not working in an advanced center. And also on the patient side, there are expectations that this kind of report is shared with the patient community, but it's not really designed to be read by patients. So on both sides, it can create some difficulties. And so there was a desire to do something around this. And again, we started with doing a mapping to see what else was out there in terms of providing support on biomarker test reports. So in terms of the mapping, and we did a mapping of over 50 resources for different kinds of stakeholders, including patients and healthcare providers. And the mapping included glossaries, guidelines, templates, educational materials, academic outputs such as peer-reviewed papers, and also interactive digital tools. And you can see also on the screen some of the barriers that are identified as a result of this mapping. So it was discovered that there was really a lack of effective patient-provider engagement support resources and tools. So what that means is we often found that there were resources that were focused only on the patient or only on the healthcare provider, but not looking at the two at the same time, when we were also hearing that we need to find ways to support the dynamic of the two together and the discussion between the two. And we also found on the system level that these guidelines or best practices were often very siloed and lacking a kind of global structure. So perhaps it might be addressed at a regional level or at a country level. We're missing a kind of overarching best practice structure to follow. So based on this, it was decided that it would be helpful to develop a patient-friendly biomarker test report summary template. So the vision is to have some kind of almost a cover sheet of the key information that would be the most important for connecting the patient with the most appropriate treatment. And this is something that would be supporting both the healthcare provider and the patient. And we are currently discussing a pilot here to test this approach, so develop it and test it in real life. We are working with Umberto Malapelle, a European key opinion leader in the liquid biopsy space, and who is also scientific secretary of the International Society of Liquid Biopsy, so someone who you may know. And you are invited to participate in this working group and also think about if you might be willing to test such a template in your lab. And if you're interested in doing that, you can connect with my colleague Vincent or to connect with me, and we would be really happy to work together with you. For my third example, I wanted to take a slightly different approach. So we had been looking at the issues at the care level, and here I would like to zoom out to the healthcare system level with an example of a resource we developed called the country and condition cards. The reason why we started this project about the country and condition cards is because we were hearing from patient advocates that they were frequently getting questions from patients about what is available in terms of biomarker testing or targeted therapies in my country. And it was quite challenging for them to have this information in one place and keep that up to date. And we were hearing from them that they actually spend time reading scientific publications to be able to get this kind of information. So the vision was to have a card, a country card, to provide the key information in a really easy to understand format. And we did a lot of consultations to understand what is the kind of information that is needed the most. And I'll show you some examples in the next few slides, but we have since developed different types of cards as well. So we have the classic country and condition card, which provides information about different kinds of condition areas, for example, for lung cancer in a given country. So it would say, for lung cancer in Argentina, this is the biomarker testing that's provided. Is it reimbursed? What are the kinds of testing, that are treatment that are provided, and that provides it in a nice card. We were also hearing from other advocates that we had spoken to that frequently patients, even if it may not be available in their country, may still want to know what's available in other countries as well. So this is where the idea of a global condition card came, and I can show you an example on the next slide. Finally, we were also discovering that there are some countries where there might be differences in access according to the region, especially countries with different autonomous regions, such as Canada or Spain or Italy. And so this is also a different kind of approach that we have been testing. Here you can see an example of a global card on the left. And you can also see an example of a country card on the right. So the example on the right is for Brazil, and I believe the one on the left is for lung cancer. We have also been testing these country cards in practice. So you can see that we have been testing this in 3 countries on the screen. So in Spain, in Hungary, and in Morocco. In Spain, we're looking at using the country cards to support advocacy efforts on a national level by enabling the showcasing of a comprehensive picture of regional disparities versus theoretical national availability. In Hungary, we're using the lung cancer card to increase healthcare professional awareness of available treatment options. And in Morocco, we're looking at developing and using this card for CML, for chronic myeloid leukemia, to empower patients with an overview of their different care choices. So you can see that we're also testing different kinds of applications of these cards as well. And again, we would be very happy to work with you to develop more and test more of these cards together with you. So to end this chapter of providing examples, I'd like to talk to you about the FT3 Country Pilots program, which I thought would be quite interesting to share with you how we are enabling collaborations at the local level, but also to share with you some of the learnings that we have made along the way. We developed the Country Pilots program to be able to make more impact at the local level. It is a way for us to address the FT3 strategic areas at the local level, but by using these case studies at the local level, it's also a way for us to test some of the assumptions we have and also further understand barriers to precision medicine and identify best practices that we can share back with the bigger community of practice. And we've actually set this up in a way that the pilots are running in parallel to enable sharing between the different pilot countries, and also to establish a community of practice of people who can come together and advise the pilots when they encounter different kinds of difficulties. We have been doing this in Spain and Hungary, and we are also exploring potential country pilots in other countries, including South Africa, Morocco, Japan, Nigeria, Brazil, and so on. So if you're interested, please let us know. I will start with an example from Hungary. So here, a very interesting case study. Hungary is a country where there is availability to precision medicine, and here this is for lung cancer. So biomarker testing for lung cancer is available and reimbursed for patients at the national level. However, uptake of this is quite low, and we were working here with the hypothesis that if we were able to produce really adapted, targeted educational materials for patients, that we would be able to make a difference. So what we did was we created a multi-stakeholder group led by a patient organization, the LEXET Association, but also together with some healthcare professionals. So we have a couple of oncopulmonologists that we work with, and also some industry partners to really come together, shape this pilot, and also develop the solutions together. And I will show you some examples of this. So we created some working sessions early on in the process where we used a tool. This is a tool called the Access Barrier Cause Effect Canvas. And it's a tool where you can map out the patient pathway. So you can see the different stages, suspected disease, tissue biopsy, and the different kinds of stakeholders that are involved. We aim to map out the experience of the patient, and importantly, to identify what are the different kinds of barriers and possible solutions at each step of the pathway. In this case, we were really focusing on information needs, since the hypothesis was to develop information resources. And this uncovered some interesting insights. For example, at the suspected disease stage, what we discovered was the healthcare professionals felt that it was often that the patients were reluctant to undergo testing procedures because they're not up to date in terms of new diagnostic procedures and the different kinds of treatment options that are available. Often the patients were still thinking that chemotherapy, for example, is the only option. And from what they see on TV, they really didn't like this and kind of gave up hope and didn't want to even explore the options further. And so we identified that this was a barrier, and so decided that we had the opportunity to develop a very specific resource, something that the healthcare professionals can hand out already at this stage, with high-level information about the available diagnostic procedures, why they matter, and how they can open up many more treatment options for patients. Another example is at the other end of the patient pathway at the confirmed diagnosis stage, where it was discussed that many patients are not able to understand their different kinds of treatment options and the potential side effects, and also to be able to explain things like clinical trials, which might be quite difficult for the healthcare professional to explain to the patient. And again, we were discussing what kind of handouts or resources can we develop to address these needs. So we developed over 7 different resources, and the tactic for bringing this to the wider community was quite interesting as well. It was decided that working with the Young Oncopulmonologists Association would be a good way to get the resources in the hands of healthcare professionals. And so we participated in a conference, and we're also planning some face-to-face workshops at different hospitals to share this with the healthcare providers, explain to them how this was developed. And importantly, what we're also doing is to use these as an opportunity to gather feedback from healthcare professionals and also from patients to be able to further develop new kinds of resources. And some of the feedback that we received, there was a desire from patients to have the resources in different kinds of formats. So now we're investigating different kinds of media, such as podcasts and video, as well as having print information. As another example of a country pilot we have done is in Spain. This is a very different kind of situation where it's a country that has different autonomous regions where, according to where you live in Spain, you will have a very different experience of precision medicine. And the objective here was to identify what kind of experiences that patients have, what kinds of needs that they have regarding biomarker testing, and to gather all this information to ultimately feed into an advocacy campaign at the national level to be able to showcase the differences in access and to be able to call for some change. So here they have been doing some different things, such as a patient survey to understand their level of knowledge and experience with biomarker testing. There was also a survey targeting hospitals and oncologists and pathologists to understand what are the real access conditions in care centers. So what are the tests and the treatments that are available, and also sending questionnaires to patients to understand their experience. Here again, there is a multi-stakeholder group. In this case, there were different patient organizations that were involved, including a pan-cancer organization. It wasn't only lung cancer involved, but the same approach of multi-stakeholder collaboration. The information is also available in Spanish, if that's interesting for you. And here is a snapshot of some of the outputs that we have received so far. Over 120 answers from patients, responses from healthcare professionals, over 100. And all this information will be made available soon if you're interested in seeing what the results were. And the next step now we're discussing with the extension of this pilot is to see what we can do to turn this into some kind of advocacy campaign to be able to call for change. So I had one last example to give to you. This is the Precision Medicine Synapse platform that I had mentioned before. This is a dynamic platform that aims to map the different kinds of precision medicine organizations, activities, resources, everything that's happening in precision medicine in one platform. It's a very exciting resource and one that I really encourage you to have a look at. I think this could be a really interesting resource for you to be able to discover what's going on in terms of precision medicine in other countries around the world, but it would also be a great resource for you to be able to also map out and present your activities and to make that available and searchable for other community members, globally speaking. Today, we have over 777 organizations, 134 initiatives, and over 1,000 resources mapped. And you will see that we have the different kinds of mapping that I had shared with you earlier can be found on Precision Medicine Synapse as well, such as the mapping of the biomarker test resources. I will send this with you later, and you can see that there is a nice video that you can see to discover how to use precision medicine signups. So I will skip over that for now. And just to end, I wanted to explain how you can get involved. So we have some different ideas. We would love your participation to join the FT3 community as a participant of one of our working groups. All the materials that you have seen today have been developed, fully co-created with the whole community. So we really count on your participation to be able to move this forward. And again, we would love to have the participation of more global participants. If your organization might be a good fit for FT3 membership, please contact us and we can have a discussion about that. As an FT3 member, it just means that you participate in another level of engagement. And again, we would really love to have more diverse country representation. If you're interested in conducting a country pilot or have any learnings to share to support an ongoing pilot, we'd love to hear from you. And just as a reminder that we would love to hear from you if you're interested in piloting the patient-friendly biomarker test report summary template in your labs. And finally, don't forget to look at precision medicine sign-ups and look at signing up on that. It's freely available, and you can use that again to share your initiatives, events, good resources, and to connect with the precision medicine ecosystem. And in terms of the different working groups we have at FT3, here you can see an overview here under number 3 below. There are lots of different working groups, so plenty of opportunities to get involved. And if you're interested but not sure about where you can get involved, please let me know and I would be happy to discuss with you and find the best fit. So that's the end. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that wasn't too much information. I'd be really happy to have a follow-up discussion with you. You can see my contact details there, helena@thesynergist.org, and I look forward to hearing with you and hopefully having you join the FT3 community. Thank you so much.